Hey everyone and welcome back to my channel. So in today's video I'm going to be reacting to the Goodreads Choice Awards nominees for 2021. So I did a video like this last year, which I might link in the description. I need to watch that video back actually because it was one of the first videos that I made on my channel. Maybe not one of the first actually. I think I've been doing my channel for a few months and so I don't know if I want people to be watching that video, but I mean, yeah, I'll leave it linked in the description and in the cards if you did want to check that out. But I had fun making that video and people seemed to like it, and so I thought I'll do it again this year. So I saw Goodreads posted on Instagram this morning to say that the nominees were live for 2021, so I haven't looked at them yet because I wanted my reaction to be genuine, or I mean, that's not the word I'm looking for. I wanted my reaction to be a first reaction, so I haven't looked at the nominees yet. I'm going to do it now and just screen record and go through each of the categories. I mean, I probably won't go through every genre, to be fair, because that would take a while, but I thought I would go through the fiction nominees and then thrillers, romance, and what other genres do I read? Fantasy and debut novels, maybe. So I think I'm just going to keep recording until my camera battery runs out, to be honest, or until my throat stops working. My throat stops working? What is wrong with me today? I am not doing well this week. I started my new job on Monday and so I've had to get up earlier than usual 2 days in a row because of obviously commuting into the office. So I'm gonna apologise now in case this video is not the best, but yeah, I'm gonna stop rambling and let me screen record on my phone and we will go through the nominees. I'm actually really excited because yeah, I haven't looked at them yet, so I have no idea what's on this list because I've been at work all day. I haven't even seen any reactions on Twitter or anything, so yeah, we're gonna see how this goes. Okay, so like I said, I think the first category I'm gonna look at is just general fiction, and I don't know how many of these I'm gonna have heard of because the first three on the list I have not heard of. Beautiful World, Where Are You by Sally Rooney, I have heard of because it was quite hyped when it came out, and I have read Normal People by Sally Rooney and I didn't like it. I gave it 2 stars, and so I have been trying to decide whether I want to give any of her other books a go because it wasn't the actual story of Normal People that I didn't like, it was more that the writing style just wasn't gelling with me. There's no speech marks in the entire book and I think that I found that very distracting, and just in general yeah, it wasn't for me, unfortunately, Normal People. I have heard mixed reviews, I think, of Beautiful World, Where Are You, so I don't know. I mean, maybe one day I will pick it up, but otherwise I have barely heard of any of these books. I don't think I'm going to go through each individual book now and decide which books I want to add to my TBR, but yeah, if you've read any of these and you'd recommend them, then please let me know in the comments. Okay, so next I'm going to look through the mystery and thriller nominees, that's the word that I was looking for, and I'm anticipating that I'm going to have heard of more of these because I do tend to read a lot of mysteries and thrillers, and especially new releases. I do tend to read a lot of new releases within this genre. So Not a Happy Family by Shari Lapina, I haven't read, but I have heard of this author. I haven't actually read anything by this author before, but I know that they're quite popular, so maybe I should. I don't know whether this one has had the best reviews though, from memory, but if you've read it then let me know. The Push I have heard of, I think that was quite hyped on Bookstagram earlier this year. Haven't read it though, so don't know if I've actually seen many reviews for it. I think I've seen a couple and they were both negative. So it's one that, yeah, I've seen around a lot but haven't really had much interest in reading. And then The Wife Upstairs I have heard of but have no idea what it's about. A Slow Burning Fire I have also heard of because that's Paula Hawkins' new book. I did read The Girl on the Train years ago when it first came out and I did enjoy it, but I don't know whether I would enjoy it reading it now because it was one of the first thrillers that I ever read, and I don't tend to lean towards domestic thrillers anymore. I don't actually know if this is a domestic thriller though, so maybe I'll give it a go. I'm not really sure. I am surprised actually that I haven't read any of these books yet. The Night She Disappeared by Lisa Jewell, again, haven't read. I have read quite a few Lisa Jewell books and I've found that they tend to be hit or miss for me. Was it Invisible Girl? Was the book that came out last year by Lisa Jewell, which I did enjoy actually. I think I gave it 4 4 stars, but then I read another Lisa Jewell book this year and I gave it 3 stars because it just felt kind of average. So not sure if I'm interested in that one. And then Billy Summers by Stephen King. I have read quite a few Stephen King books, but mostly his older books. And again, they tend to be hit or miss because I really liked Misery and I really liked, what was the other one that I read? Pet Sematary. I did really like that. And then I love the Dark Tower series by Stephen King. I read that again, like probably over 10 years ago now, but I haven't read any of his newer releases because I haven't heard the best reviews of them. And I'm pretty sure I heard mixed reviews of Billy Summers as well, so don't know if that's one that I will be picking up. Rock, Paper, Scissors though by Alice Feeney. So I have actually read a book on this list, which yay, and that is another book that was really, really hyped on Bookstagram. I think it came out in August and I listened to the audiobook and really enjoyed it. I gave it 4 stars. I don't know if I would have enjoyed it as much if I'd read a physical copy because I liked it. I liked the narration on the audiobook and I liked the general direction that the story went in. However, I guessed the main twists, if you like. There were also a lot of twists towards the end of this book, and I think that there were too many to the point where it started to feel a little unrealistic, and I do tend to prefer more realistic thrillers, but I think I would still recommend that one. If you like domestic thrillers, I definitely recommend it because it's one of the better domestic thrillers that I've read, especially recently. And then we also have The Maidens by Alex Michaelides on this list, which I was tempted to read until I saw all of the negative reviews, and I feel like this is a very polarizing book because I've either seen 5-star reviews or 1-star reviews, and the whole dark academia setting really did kind of spark my interest initially, but I wasn't the biggest fan of The Silent Patient by this author. I mean, I didn't hate The Silent Patient. I think I gave it 3 stars. And yeah, I was willing to give The Maidens a go, but when I saw all of the negative reviews that started coming out and I saw the reasons why people were giving it 1 star, I started to feel like I probably wouldn't enjoy it as much. I think the main criticism that I've seen is that the ending doesn't make a lot of sense, or that it felt a little bit too far-fetched and that the main character was really frustrating. So yeah, don't know if I'm actually going to pick that one up. Okay, so within this category, I've read one of the books and I've heard of about half of them, maybe just over half of them. And I think my prediction for what's going to win is The Maidens because it's the one that I think most people will have heard of. But I don't know, I'm a little disappointed with the books on this list because a lot of them are by popular authors, and so they're going to be books that a lot of people will have been picking up this year. Usually when I get to this category, I'll see books and I'll be thinking, oh yeah, I've heard of that, I've heard really good things about that, I want to get around to it. Whereas looking at this list now, I'm seeing lots of books that I've heard of, but they're books that I've heard of because not a lot of people have liked them. A lot of the books, from what I can see, are books that have really, really mixed opinions. And so, yeah, I think The Silent Patient, I think The Maidens is gonna win it, but I don't know. Yeah, I don't know how I feel about this category. Let me know what you think if you've read any of these books. Okay, so next I'm gonna move on to the fantasy books, and I had a feeling that A Court of Silver Flames would be on this list, and it is, and I don't think I like that, and there's a very specific reason for that because I enjoyed A Court of Silver Flames. I read it the week it came out, I pre-ordered it and everything, which I don't really do that often, and I liked it. However, I felt like that book was a romance. It didn't feel like a fantasy at all, and it's interesting because the first 3 books in the A Court of Thorns and Roses series did feel like they were fantasy romances, like they had the 50-50 balance between the two. A Court of Silver Flames, to me, felt like 80% romance and then 20% fantasy. And so I don't think it really deserves to be in the fantasy section. Let me know if you disagree, obviously. I also really don't understand why The Crown of Gilded Bones is on this list, because again, that is a fantasy romance, but I would say that it's more of a romance than a fantasy. I'm pretty sure actually that From Blood and Ash, the first book in the series, was nominated last year or the year before, but in the romance category, I'm pretty sure it won the romance category either last year or the year before, so I don't understand why it switched. I'm really, really confused. I need to get on Twitter or get on social media in general and talk to other people about this, because I don't understand. I don't get it. Obviously, you're welcome to disagree with me, like this video is literally just my opinion. It's interesting because there's 3 books in this category that I can see that I've read, so Crown of Gilded Bones, Court of Silver Flames, and The Shadow of the Gods by John Gwynne, and you can't really compare those books. It's confusing my brain that they're all in the same category. I mean, I did enjoy The Shadow of the Gods. I would say that that's probably the one that I'm going to vote for in this category because I haven't read any of the others. I do really want to read A Master of Jinn by P. Jelly Clark because I read the first novella in this series, I think it was earlier this year, and I really enjoyed it. I really liked the world building and I was really interested by the characters, and so that is one that I definitely do want to get round to from this list. There are actually a few books on this list that I've been meaning to get round to and just haven't yet. So Under the Whispering Door by TJ Klune, I do actually have an arc of that through NetGalley, so I need to read it soon because I'm pretty sure that it's come out already and I am just terrible at getting round to reading my arcs on time. She Who Became the Sun by Shelley Parker Chan as well, I do want to read because I've heard that that's more historical than fantasy, like it's a historical fantasy, and I do really, really like historical fantasies, so definitely interested in reading that one. But I think if I had to make a prediction on which book I think is going to win this category, I don't want to say A Court of Silver Flames, but I feel like it's going to be A Court of Silver Flames, and I don't want it to be. Obviously, I've only read 3 books on this list, and I think that of the 3 books that I've read, I personally would want The Shadow of the Gods to win, but I think it's gonna be A Court of Silver Flames. I've just had a quick look through the young adult fantasy list, and the only book that I've read is Rule of Wolves by Leigh Bardugo, which I liked but didn't love. I do think that's the one that's gonna win because it's the one, just looking through the list, that I think is the most well known. I think the problem that I had with Rule of Wolves is that I read it immediately after finishing King of Scars, and I hated King of Scars. I think at the time I really wanted to love it a lot more than I did, and I hated it. I hated the ending, and the ending to King of Scars did not make me excited to pick up Rule of Wolves, but I did end up enjoying Rule of Wolves more than King of Scars. I think I gave it 3 stars, whereas King of Scars was like a 2 stars. Did not appreciate it. Yeah, I don't think it was really needed, that duology, especially in comparison to how great Six of Crows and Crooked Kingdom were. Okay, so next I'm going to look through the romance nominees, and I know that last year there were quite a few books that were nominated that weren't technically romances, and it was a little bit annoying because one of the books that was nominated last year was actually one of my favourite books of last year, but it wasn't a romance. Like, it was not a romance at all. Like, it was far from a romance, and so it was quite frustrating because I remember seeing it and thinking, I don't want this book to win because I don't want people to pick it up thinking it's going to be a romance, because then obviously they're going to be disappointed, and it is annoying that Goodreads keep doing that. Okay, so I've just gone through the list quickly, and of the categories that I've looked at so far, this is the one where I've actually read the most books from. So I've read 5 of the books on this list. The Road Trip by Beth O'Leary, which I didn't like, I gave it 2 stars. However, that was because it's a second chance romance, and as I was reading it I realised that I don't like second chance romances, so in a way I'm glad that I read it because it helped me realise that I don't like second chance romances. But yeah, I don't think it was a bad book or anything, I think it was just not for me. The Love Hypothesis by Ali Hazelwood I actually read a few weeks ago. I gave it 4.5 stars. It wasn't quite a 5 stars for me, mostly because the second half annoyed me a little bit. I do have a reading vlog actually for The Love Hypothesis and a few other contemporary romances, which, shameless plug, I will leave linked down below and in the cards if you did want my full thoughts, but I think that's going to be the one that wins it, you know. But then Akshay A.G. Brown, I think that's actually one of my favourite books of the year. I gave it 5 stars, absolutely loved it. My favourite book in the Brown Sisters series. I think that my favourite sister is still Dani Brown, but actually A.G. Brown, it was so cute. Like, it actually made me cry. I can remember when I was reading it. Oh, I can't remember what part it was, but yeah, it was just beautiful. Like, absolutely 100% recommend. If you haven't read the Brown Sisters series yet, I know that it's a really, really hyped series on BookTube, but I think that it is 100% deserving of that hype because it is really, really good. People We Meet on Vacation by Emily Henry, I read over the summer and did enjoy it. I think I gave it 4 stars, 3.5 stars. Friends to Lovers isn't my favourite trope. Didn't enjoy it as much as Beach Read, which I read last year. I gave that 5 stars. One Last Stop by Casey McQuiston was one of my most anticipated books of the year, and I still haven't read it yet, but I will. It will happen. I will read it. Probably not before the end of the year now, but I'll definitely read it next year. You can hold me to that. Now, The Heart Principle by Helen Huang, I think is one of my favourite books of the year, but I can also see why some people haven't been enjoying it, because in comparison to the other books in the Kiss Quotient series, this one has more of a focus on the individual characters' developments and their journey rather than on the romance. I did actually think that the relationship in this felt a little underwhelming and a little underdeveloped, but I cried my eyes out at this book. I did think that it was really well written. Would not recommend this one if you're looking for a lighter romance because it was heavy at times and I wasn't expecting it. Did I get an arc of this actually? I think I read it before it came out or as it was coming out, and so I hadn't seen any reviews for it and I wasn't prepared for how emotional it was gonna be. And so yeah, just something I wanted to mention because it had a very, very different tone in comparison to the first 2 books. But when I read the author's note at the end of the book, I could understand why she'd chosen to write the story that way. So yeah, even though it's one of my favourite books of the year, in terms of the romance, I don't think I would want it to win because I feel like the winner should be a book that has a fantastic romance. And I felt like, yeah, the romance in The Heart Principle was a little disappointing, but the book as a whole I did enjoy. I think in terms of my prediction for which book I think is going to win in this category, I'm gonna go for The Love Hypothesis because even though it's not my favourite romance of the year, I did thoroughly enjoy it. And I know that a lot of people have been loving this book, and as I was reading it, it put a huge smile on my face, and I do think that it does deserve all the hype that it's got. The only other category that I was sort of interested in was the debut novels category, but I've just noticed that my camera battery is about to run out, and so is the battery on my phone, so I'm not going to do that. I am going to end the video here, so thanks for watching if you've made it this far. If you are interested in any of the nominees, if you're thinking about reading any of them, or if you're thinking about reading any of the nominees or the winners from last year, then I may have a readathon announcement coming soon that you might be interested in. Don't know when it's going live. I've edited the video, I just need to schedule it. So keep an eye out for that. Let me know in the comments if you've read any of the books that have been nominated and which you think are gonna win. And don't forget to give this video a thumbs up if you liked it and click subscribe if you haven't already. And I will see you next time. Bye.